PR company dedicated to highlighting filmmakers in the genre. They came to us with an incredible idea to do some live stream panels during this era of Corona. We all miss going to conventions. We all miss the panel experiences that come with that. And we're doing our best to keep you all entertained, engaged, and frightened during this unprecedented time. Josh Milliken, I'm the editor-in-chief at Dread Central, the host of Chronic Horror. And for our inaugural Dissecting Horror panel, it's all about composers. We're very lucky to be joined by 4 composers, all of whom have films that were recently released or are soon to be released. I'm going to introduce you to each of them one at a time. First, join me in welcoming Ronan Landa. His film 1BR was just released from Dark Sky Films. Ronan, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you, Josh?
I'm doing great. Tell our viewers a bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a composer based out of Los Angeles, and I've worked on quite a few horror films like The Pact and At the Devil's Door, and now we've got this new one, 1BR, which we're really excited about, and trying to keep people frightened.
Right. So in 1BR, a woman new to Los Angeles moves into a seemingly perfect apartment complex, but soon finds out that there are consequences for breaking the rules. We got the trailer. Let's give it a spin.
I could just act it out.
Haven't you been getting my calls?
I've been busy.
When are you coming home?
I'm staying.
They put that system in a few years ago after a break-in. Don't worry, neighborhood's a lot safer now.
I just moved here. I don't really know anyone.
What brought you to LA?
Trying to start a new life.
Missed one here. Any pets?
Nope.
You got it. We're neighbors. Hey, listen, we're having a barbecue. You should come.
Welcome.
We'd like to make this place feel like a real neighborhood.
And we all kind of take care of each other here.
Does the plumbing do that every night?
Do what?
So tired all the time. Do you hear that noise?
I don't hear anything very well anymore.
You think I'm crazy? What are you doing? Run! Run! Help! I need help! How could you do this? I just want to go. Please. Please, I just want to go home.
This is your home.
Have seen the film. It's incredible. Highly recommend you guys all check it out upon its release. Thanks for being here, Ronan. Ronan, we'll get back to you shortly. Our next guest is Devin Burrows, who did the score for IFC's The Wretched. Devin, how are you?
Good. What's up, Josh?
Doing good, doing good. Introduce yourself to our viewers.
Yeah, happy to. Devin Burrows, super delighted to be here. The Wretched is a psychological thriller in the vein of Fright Night and Rear Window, and I think it has a lot to offer horror audiences, especially audiences that like orchestral film scores or practical effects, this movie's definitely for you. Got to work with full orchestra on this one, so I'm super excited, and it drops on VOD May 1st.
Dropping on VOD May 1st, and I think we've got the trailer. By the way, if you guys hear me talking to John, that's John Condit, co-founder of Dread Central. He's doing the behind-the-scenes tech, so yeah, I'm not imagining things. He's helping me out here. John, let's let the trailer rip for The Wretched.
Haven't you been getting my calls?
I've been busy.
When are you coming home?
I'm staying.
Hey, what's going on? Hey, neighbor. You see anything weird outside your house, you tell me, all right?
Dad, Mom's being weird.
Mom's always been weird. What are you doing up here?
Dylan! Don't let her in.
My son likes to play hide and seek. Can you bring him down?
I didn't say he was here.
You're a very stupid boy.
Can I help you? Is Dylan home?
Dylan, down here, baby.
You know, your son Dylan? I don't have a son. He had no idea who I was talking about.
Listen to Mommy! Stay, Dylan!
He's gone. I know it. I'd like to report a missing kid.
Are you okay, Ben?
Where is your sister?
I need you to tell me what's going on! Ben!
Folks, the trailer for The Wretched. Incredible flick. I saw it personally at Screamfest and loved it. Are we back on the panelists, John? All right. So we'll get more into The Wretched shortly. Allow me to introduce our next panelist, Christian Davis. His film Behind You is coming out from Vertical Entertainment, or it has been released. Devin?
It comes out on Friday, this Friday.
Another great supernatural flick. Tell us a bit about yourself before we let the trailer rip.
Like everyone else, composer based in Los Angeles, originally from Colorado. Just love making music for movies.
Fantastic. Christian Davis did the score for Behind You. John, let's see that trailer.
I don't want them here.
They're your nieces. The best thing for them is to be with family.
There are some rules you'll need to follow. This door leads to the basement. It stays locked at all times.
I saw Mom.
Where?
In the basement.
Don't you know I love you? Don't you know I do? Don't you know?
Mommy? Is that you? Mirror. Open wide. Let the spirit come inside. Mirror. Open wide. Let the spirit come inside. Mirror, open wide. Let the spirit come inside. I want to get it out.
There could be no me without you.
All right. There you have it. The trailer for Behind You, a slick supernatural thriller from Vertical Entertainment. And our final guest, allow me to introduce Raphael Lelou. He scored the film The Other Lambs from IFC. Raphael is The Other Lamb. I keep pluralizing it for some reason. Is The Other Lamb available now?
Yeah, it's on Amazon and other VOD. It's it's been available since April 3rd in the US, and it will be released in the UK in July.
Fantastic. Definitely one of the more unique films that I've seen in a while. John, let's give the trailer for The Other Lamb a spin.
There once was a woman, made of moonlight and teeth. She would roam in the woods, searching for something, hunting.
And he just kept telling me, you are perfect. You are accepted.
Oh, my shepherd, I need a deeper experience with you than I ever had before.
So beautiful, just like your mother's.
Come down upon me and fill me with yourself.
Let us pray. My wives, you all came to me broken by a cruel world. I took every one of you in. I sacrificed my life for you. I gave you daughters and sisterhood and life. Let us reflect on our blessings.
Yes, my shepherd.
You think that because you haven't had your time yet, that makes you special. Prepare yourself, child. Our great shepherd won't be so sweet on you then. I'll be seeing you when the blood comes to you.
As I went down in the valley to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown? Good Lord, show me the way.
Shala, what happened?
Oh, sisters, let's go down.
It's worse than punishment.
Let's go down, come down. Oh, sisters, let's go down.
I am relying on you, Zella. Of all my children, you're the purest in your faith.
Fantastic. The Other Lamb from IFC Films. Thanks again for tuning in to our first ever Dissecting horror panel. It's all about the composers tonight. Let's delve deep. Ronan, I wanted to start with you. One Bedroom is a very dialogue-driven film with several twists. How did you wrap your mind around scoring this project? And before you start, I think we actually have a little sample audio.
Okay.
John, can you give us a few bars to lead us in?
Think of me.
We're about to hear a sample of the 1BR soundtrack.
Sentimental, emotional stuff. We had a beautiful piano theme that I worked hard on with our director Dave Marmer, and that came out really beautifully. And our pianist Carolina Rojan, she's amazing. So we had that whole emotional side to the film, and then we also had the experimental stuff, which is always a blast. And I like playing in the sandbox, and we had among other things, I recorded a low woodwind group with we must have had like 30 feet of tubing there. It was crazy, how many low woodwinds we got in a room. Bass, flute.
Ronan, I'm going to stop you really briefly. I think some of our viewers couldn't hear while the music was playing.
Okay.
Want to just back up a little bit and talk about the emotional journey of the character?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Well, I'll repeat that, I guess. So the score is really told from the point of view of our main character, Sarah. We're trying to get inside her head and inside her mind what she's going through this whole film, because she really carries the entire film. So the whole score is inside her head in a way. And so when she's feeling more emotionally vulnerable, we have more sentimental themes, things that we recorded on piano, clarinet, violin, really traditional score in a lot of ways. And then, which hopefully people heard on that main theme just now, some of our main piano theme, which leads the movie off. And then we have the darker stuff, the more experimental stuff. And I was saying that one of the more fun recording sessions was when we got a group of low woodwinds in a room, and we had a contrabassoon and bass clarinet and contrabass clarinet, and I don't even remember all the instruments we had in there. There were a bunch, and we created some insane textures that are kind of peppered throughout the score, and we got to do lots of really crazy experimental stuff, recording everything. A lot of stuff that's in this room too. So.
Fantastic. It's a great film and it's a great score. It must have been a challenge because, like I said, it's a very twisty film, and the tone definitely jumps between acts. So fantastic. I'm hoping that the film gets the recognition it deserves. I'm really glad you were able to
it comes out I think a week from Friday on the 24th on all the VOD platforms. So excited for people to see it.
When this gets uploaded to YouTube, we'll be sure to include all the links so people will be able to find out when and where all of these films are playing. Thanks so much for being here. Next, I wanted to talk to Christian. You did the score. Christian Davis did the score for Behind You. I have been hearing that some people were not able to hear us talking while the music was playing. So, for starters, I want to make sure that everyone hears you and gets to know you. So we're just going to talk, and if there's time, maybe we'll be able to play some samples as a way of outroing this panel. Christian.
Hi.
Thanks for being here. Let's see, out of the 30 plus projects you've scored, 9 of them have been horror. So tell me how horror differs from other genres, and is your approach to creating a horror score different? How do you get in the mood?
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. I mean, it always comes back to story, but horror is so much fun because you get to do just a bunch of weird crap, right? I mean, it's all about getting outside the box, whereas if you're doing a comedy or a drama, you're kind of stuck a bit more in the paradigm. But so for Behind You, for example, one of the Andrew and Matthew, the directors of the movie, talked to me a bit about how the house needed to have a voice in the score. The house is kind of it's the antagonist, right? And so it's well, I don't want to give it too much away, but anyway, and so I went around just recording weird sounds around my house, chainsaws and tea kettles and pots and pans, just trying to distorting those things to kind of add a little spice on top of the orchestra to give the house a sound in the score. So that's the kind of thing you can get away with in a horror score that you can't do obviously in a lot of other genres.
What was your biggest challenge with scoring Behind You?
It's a good question. I think the biggest challenge was finding kind of it's always, I think it's really easy for me to do like the intense, throwing the kitchen sink at it, scary driving stuff, to kind of find the subtle small moments in the score, the emotional parts. So there's definitely those as well. That was definitely probably more challenging, ironically, than the thing where because you have to restrain yourself. You have to which is harder, I think.
Absolutely. Now you've got another film about to be released as well. Do you want to tell us a bit about The Voices?
Yeah. So yeah, Behind You comes out this Friday. I think The Voices comes out the 24th. The Voices is a different, very different score. It's kind of more of a psychological horror, and so it's more kind of like piano string quartet, a little bit less jump scare, but still very scary. And that was also a lot of fun, but very different and kind of a different challenge.
Fantastic. So everyone be sure to check out Behind You and The Voices when they're released in the coming weeks. And Christian, we'll get back to you shortly, and we'll play a sample of your music as we end this stream to give our viewers a little something, a little interlude to go off into the evening with. Next up, I wanted to talk to Raphael Lelou.
Hey.
I understand your name has a bit of a sinister meaning. What does your name mean?
It means the wolf in French.
So the wolf scored the film The Other Lamb. Very exciting. So I heard that you actually did a lot of the score before this film even started, which is really rare.
Yeah, that was like production direction decision. So basically, I got called about 3 or 4 months before the film was shot. So I wrote the score based on the script. That was the script and the intention of the director. So I just wrote whatever was in my head and sent a lot of material to the director, and she kind of directed the music the same way she would direct the film. And by the time the film was shot, it was shot in Ireland. We had a lot of material that could be used on sets.
Fantastic. The characters in The Other Lamb are really kind of stuck in time. They're living a primitive lifestyle in a modern world. How did this affect your approach to scoring the film?
It didn't really affect, in the sense that, I didn't want to put like there is no era that is attached really. I mean, you don't really feel when you watch the beginning what year that is happening in, or
Right, which
where.
I can tell was very intentional on the director's part. You know, it takes a
Exactly.
while until you start seeing fabricated items, and I don't want to give anything away, but you really are kind of left wondering, you know, what even century it is for the first 10, 15 minutes.
Definitely, yeah. And in the music, we definitely decided to go for something that mixes electronic, so very modern sounds, and we use a string quartet, which is more kind of atemporal. It can be, you know, you can really do a lot with string quartets to not give away what year you're in. So that's what we decided to do, and to mix electronic and that classical vibe was really the intention.
Fantastic. And, you know, The Other Lamb is a very atmospheric film. You know, was there pressure on you knowing that in an atmospheric film like this, your score would be much more in the forefront?
No, because since like it was written mostly, like a lot of it was written before, like the director and the editor together worked a lot into placing what existed already. So I kind of worked on a like probably already partly made material.
Well, fantastic. The results are definitely stunning, and like I said, it's a very unique film. It's a slow burn, but it really gets you from the start, and it's hard to look away from at any moment. So, really hoping that other people enjoy The Other Lamb as much as I did. Fantastic.
Cool. Thanks you.
Thanks. Next, I want to talk to Devin Burrows. Devin, you did the music for The Wretched. You also did the music for the horror comedy Deadheads, I understand. I'm a fan of that one.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right.
So, you know, The Wretched is a very multifaceted film. It's a supernatural horror movie, but it's also a coming of age movie. Was it hard to find a unifying sound?
No, well, yes, there were certainly a lot of challenges. It is a quite varied film. It's not monotone at all. You know, the directors wanted to get you invested in the characters, and they wanted themes for those characters and some places like the woods. So it was a challenge to write that score, but you know, Brett and Drew are big fans of thematic scores, so we came up with some themes and harmonized them differently for different contexts. So we can have a very sort of frightening context and also a sort of sentimental context at other times. So yeah, it presented challenges, but it was a hell of a ride. It was a lot of fun.
Can you talk to us a bit about how you use the score to ratchet up the tension and the suspense in the scariest moments?
Sure. Yeah. Like I was saying, Brett and Drew are big fans of older film scores. Bernard Herrmann and Jerry Goldsmith were all fans. I'm certainly a fan of lots of modern classical composers like Stravinsky and Debussy. And yeah, I think in some ways it's kind of a throwback to older films, you know, just straight ahead psychological thrillers. And, you know, we used the orchestra to ratchet up the tension. And Brett and Drew also came over to my place at one point, and I laid out a bunch of instruments for them to choose from. And they chose Indian sarangi and a few other folk instrument secret weapons that sort of transport the audience into the scenes and help create the tension.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Sounds great. Well, listen, guys, we've had some audience, some viewers watching who have submitted some questions. I've got a few that I thought I would kind of throw out for all of you. But one thing that we got, which is really interesting, I hadn't thought of, want each of you to tell me what instruments do you think create the scariest sounds? Ronan, why don't you kick it off? What do you think creates the scariest sounds?
It's a tough question because the violins are like the screeching violins are so classic, and we all have that in our head. If you asked me, I was actually telling a filmmaker friend, if you forced me to pick just one, because I really think you can find something scary in almost anything. I would love to do a score that is nothing but sounds you can make out of the piano, because when you open that lid on a grand piano and get inside the strings, the kinds of sounds you can create in that thing are just out of this world. And I absolutely love playing in piano. I record that stuff endlessly, and it always gets peppered into my scores in different places. But really, it's a tough question because you can make something scary out of anything.
Absolutely. And I know what you're saying about that piano. A friend of mine actually had the inside of an upright just leaning against a wall in his house. And I'd love to just get my hands all over that. I know what you're talking about. How about you, Christian? What instruments do you think create the scariest sounds?
It's a tough one. And I haven't used this very much, but you can get some really scary sounds, I think, out of what the woodwinds. Yeah, doing some kind of that extended techniques, multiphonics and whatnot. I'm not a woodwind player myself, so I haven't used it very much, but it's unless I have a budget. But man, they can get some really, because it almost sounds human in a way, almost vocal. But I'll go with woodwinds.
Woodwinds. All right, Raphael, how about you? Scariest sounds. What instruments do you go to?
Yeah, first of all, I do agree with everything that has been said already, but I want to add, for me, everything that is as contrasted as possible to just simply scary, which means, for example, like a child's voice, like in Rosemary's Baby. It's just like nothing worse than that when it's super contrasted.
So true.
Yeah, definitely. Child's voice kind of gets you every time. Right amount of reverb on there. Yeah. Devin, scariest sounds. What instrumentation do you look at?
Well, I used to play violin when I was a kid, and my sister played violin. And as a young person growing up hearing my sister practice violin, I have to say that is the scariest sound. But that's a tough one. I think that combinations of instruments can make really interesting new sort of sounds and timbres. We used bowed psaltery on this film, and along with string harmonics, which gave kind of a really shrill, scary sound. So that worked pretty well.
Fantastic. All right, here's a question for me. If you could rescore any existing horror movie, what would it be? Ronan, back to you.
Oh, that's so unfair because I don't want to have to throw anyone else under the bus.
Hey, no shade. Just which one in a dream world would you have a chance to start?
No,
from scratch on and make your own?
what I would say is even though it's perfect as is, so it's not that I'd really not that it needs a rescore at all, but the Birds doesn't really have a score, so give me the Birds and let me play around in there for a while. That would be fun. That would just be a fun thing to do. But and because I love Hitchcock and I love the old stuff, I also love Bernard Herrmann, and I think that a lot of my influences come from that era of Hollywood and movie making. So that would be a super fun one to do. And and people are doing rescores all the time of silent films from the from that era. And
right.
that stuff can get so cool. So people are doing great stuff. It's neat.
Right on. How about you, Christian? What horror movie would you rescore in a fantasy world?
Oh, yeah. It's a hard question. I'm gonna just probably just one of the John Carpenter's. I would just love to do a synth horror score. I haven't done one of those yet, just to challenge me to play in a new sandbox, any one of them. But not because they're not great, just because I haven't done it yet. A synth would be so much fun to play with.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'd love to see you get outside of the box and do something new like that. How about you, Raphael? What classic horror movie or horror movie that you love would you rescore in a fantasy world?
Yeah, I don't know if that is probably not considered horror, but with that kind of tension, I'm really into. I would be really into rescoring Alien, even though like obviously again like the existing score is like unbeatable, but that's just for me for like for the fun of doing it and not for the competition because I know I would lose on that one.
Heck yeah, ambitious for sure. Devin, how about you? Is there a movie you'd love to rescore?
Critters.
Nice. And why?
I'm just kidding. I love Critters. You know, I have a very special place for it in my heart. I think I would choose Rosemary's Baby. Even though, again, like I don't know that I would change that film at all, but it is one of my favorite horror films.
Right on, right on. All right, we've got another question from our viewers. There are so many different subgenres in horror, such as supernatural and slasher. Do each of these subgenres have a different signature sound? And I'm going to flip up the order, and I'm going to go to you first, Devin.
Okay, so what were the subgenres?
You know, just for example, you know, you've got slasher and supernatural, and the viewers asking if different subgenres have different signature sounds.
Definitely. I think they definitely do. I think they have different sort of harmonic contexts and tools in the toolbox that composers reach for. And it's a little unfortunate. You know, sometimes you'll get a film that's temped with something and the director's looking for something very specific, and sometimes it prevents the composer from being able to go outside the box and try new things. But yeah, I would say definitely that's the case. But we find ways to push the envelope and make things sound unique.
Raphael, do you agree?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I mean, even though I did not try every single subgenre myself, and probably like to answer completely, I would have to at least have tried a scene on every subgenre. But the one that I feel I'm the most connecting with, it's more like psychological horror. And on that one, I definitely feel like there is something specific about it, like the sounds and the contrast between the sounds themselves are definitely creating the tensions that you could have between characters, or every layer that the image is not saying, can be said in the music. And that's something that, is probably very specific.
Absolutely.
There.
Christian, let me give the question a little spin for you. How would you differentiate an approach to a slasher film versus a supernatural film if you were going to score them? What would be your different approaches? You got your mute on, Home Slice.
All right. It depends on so many things. I mean, you know, how big the film needs to feel. You know, what the director's vision of the era, right? I mean, obviously we all have our bag of tricks that we like to use. Maybe to get a scare to evoke a certain emotion. But yeah, I think like standard, you know, difference between psychological and a slasher film. There's definitely a difference in tone, but there doesn't always have to be. So I don't know. I'm not an expert in horror either. I've done a few of them, and I love doing them because they always challenge me. But I just wouldn't even know until I saw the film and talked with the director what kind of a palette we would want to establish.
Right on. Ronan, do you agree that different subgenres have signature sounds? And how would you describe the signature sound of a slasher film versus the signature sound of a haunted house movie?
See, I'm gonna take it from another direction, which is that I think every single film has to have a signature sound of its own. I think, you know, as composers, I'm sure the other guys are like this too. That when you have a film in front of you, what's driving your music is the film that's in front of you. I mean, I don't get worked up about, oh, this has to fit into some box. It's I want to write music that's going to make this story as awesome as it can be, and you know, that'll hit audiences as hard as it can, and will be really compelling and interesting. And so whatever's in front of you is what you're scoring. So for me, that definitely means that whatever I've got in front of me, I don't want it. Christian said we all have our toolbox, and that's true. But I think we're also always trying to find something different, find a new way to think about our music making, and push the envelope and do something fresh. So you're trying to do that and also really serve the film that's in front of you and serve the story. So I think it's really individual per film in a way.
Fantastic. I like how each of you were able to delve into that. Let's have a little love fest. Let's spread the love. Is there a recent horror film where the score really stuck with you? Ronan, since you're up, why don't you just take a first swing at it?
So if Christian's not an expert in horror, then I am definitely not an expert in horror. But someone once wrote an article about me, the horror composer who's too scared to watch horror films. It's pretty much true. It's interesting. I did see at Fantasia, I saw Swallow, and that's a really awesome movie and a really great score. And the other thing I saw, which was just, we all know this score and it's not new, but I got to see Psycho with a live orchestra a few months back. And I have to say that was super cool. And any chance you get to see, one of these films with a live band accompanying it, it's just the coolest thing. So I have to tell everybody to go when we get out of this current world we're in, and get in front of some live music. That's an amazing thing to do.
Fantastic. I haven't seen Swallow myself, so I'm even more excited to check it out now, hearing that the score impressed you. Christian, how about you? What's a recent horror film where the score really stood out to you, inspired you perhaps?
I'm really digging the stuff that Michael Abels is doing with Get Out and Us. Really, really fresh voice, and so I dug both of those scores. Very inspiring.
Fantastic. Devin?
That was a really good answer.
Did he steal your answer?
A little bit, yeah. I'm a big fan of his work. I liked Marco Beltrami's A Quiet Place. I liked pretty much everything that Johan Johannesson put out. Those are recent. A little bit of a throwback, the Others score.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an amazing score, and it's just very much inspired by the Impressionist, French composers. Anyhow, those are three relatively recent ones.
Yeah, fantastic. How about you, Raphael? What are a couple of recent horror movies where you really enjoyed the score?
Yeah, well, I feel like if I really enjoyed the music, if I really enjoyed the film and I was into the horror, I did not pay attention to the music as much as I wish I did, because I was too scared. The one that I really loved was the one Mark Coven did on The Witch, but I had to listen to it on Spotify to really enjoy it as much as it deserved.
Fantastic. It's interesting that you mentioned The Witch, because tonally, there's a little bit of, or aesthetically maybe, there are similarities between The Witch and the film you scored, The Other Lamb. Would you say that The Witch inspired your choices?
Yeah, it was a reference. There was a reference definitely that. The Witch and The Babadook. These were two big references for the music and the film too. Definitely.
Fantastic.
Josh, could I jump in with something?
Sure.
Just want to throw just a shout out, because because we didn't mention that there are so many awesome women composers working now also in horror, and so Heather Mcintosh is one who's a friend and is insanely talented. First time I heard her work was on a film called Compliance, which plays like a horror film. It's like a bloodless horror film.
Puts a knot in your stomach for the entire time.
And Hildur, whose last name I'm not even going to try to pronounce, but
good
who just won
tour.
Thank you. Who just won the Oscar for the Joker. I mean, like the Joker as a score, the music there also so dark, so creepy, and so effective. And there are people just doing really, really awesome work. And so that they deserve a shout out too.
Absolutely.
The one for Chernobyl, I want to mention that one too. That one that Hilda did on Chernobyl is amazing. Yeah.
Incredible. The best part, by the way, the best part about Chernobyl was how her score set up the finale in the music that wasn't her score. And that, I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but the ending, oh my God, that music at the end.
You have to watch it.
Yeah, I binge watched the entire thing. It was fantastic. Well, listen, I think we're coming towards the end, but we did get a final viewer question here. I'd like to pose to each of you. What real life influences do you pull from when you're putting together a score? Raphael.
Can you repeat?
What real life influences do you pull from when you're putting together a score?
You mean like what? I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah, I guess it's asking if there's anything personal in your life or from your experience that you turn to when you get started on a new piece.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I was classically trained. I went to conservatoire for music, and they really push us to think outside the box, like try experimentation, try anything, and select what sounds the best. So that's definitely like the approach I have all the time. Every time I try, every time I do a film, I work on a film. It's really trying. It's going like for as much outside the box as I can to pull things back in the box. And I would say like that's kind of my experience because that's how I learned to write music.
Sure.
And I just enjoy doing it that way because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I think kind of what the question's asking too, and Devin, you're up next. It's kind of asking what's your personal bag of tricks? What do you pull from? What's your secret, Devin?
Well, I like to get in the water. I get in the ocean on a regular basis. I surf. Of course, I haven't been able to do this recently.
Right.
With the whole COVID thing. But definitely, you pull on personal emotions and experiences, and I think it's super important to get away from the computer or your instrument and go outside and experience life because it definitely, makes you a better composer.
Excellent. Christian, what do you do to open up your bag of tricks?
Yeah, kind of like Devin was talking about, tapping into your own emotions. I think just kind of like actors have, they got to cry for a scene, they're gonna go to that place. I mean, not that I'm bawling in my studio, but I'm
Don't lie.
But no, I mean, I'm trying to always write music that is going to affect me. And I feel like if the music that I'm writing has affected me, it's moved me, hopefully it's going to move the director and it's going to move the audience. Whether I'm trying to obviously scare them for horror movies or even in Behind You, there's still moments where you want them to feel sad and feel, melancholy. And so as long as it's moving me, I'm hoping that emotion will translate through the music to the audience.
Absolutely. Ronan, give us a peek inside your bag of tricks.
It's pretty much what everyone else said. So I agree with all of them. So I'll take it from the other side, which is I try to live my life the way I make music. Kind of the other way around, which is it's all about problem solving. It's all about working together with people, working together with the way you work together with your director and the way you work together with your musicians when you're scoring a film, experimenting, which is, so critical to finding, ways to solve these dramatic problems. These are lessons that I bring into the rest of my life. So it's almost the other way around. Like I'm always thinking about how would I do this in the studio if, just dealing with life and family and friends and everything around me. So I almost think about it the other way around. It's my brain maybe is upside down. I don't know.
Who knows, man? We'll have to get an MRI to answer that question. Well, I've had a fabulous time talking with you guys. I think this panel has been a tremendous success. Before I sign off, though, I just want to to give each of you a chance to plug your film a little bit, to tell us what you're proud of and what you hope people get out of each of them. So, Ronan, why don't you give us a little send off and tell us about 1BR and why we should be excited to check it out.
Yeah, 1BR is a really exciting first feature from Dave Marmar, and I think everyone's going to be super impressed by Nicole Bryden Bloom's performance and the way that she conveys her emotions on screen. Just awesome to watch, and it takes some turns that are really unexpected. You think you're kind of going one way with it, and it ends up in a different place entirely, and it's pretty cool. So I think people are really going to get a thrill watching it.
I concur. Thank you so much for participating. Christian Davis, why should we all be excited to check out Behind You?
Yeah, Behind You is I mean, if you're a fan of horror, fan of getting scared, it's hopefully going to do that for you. Grab some popcorn. You know, if you're afraid of mirrors, you know, mirror on the wall, you know, Bloody Mary type stuff, this will get you. So it's definitely a fun movie. It's a fun, entertaining kind of horror movie. So I hope you guys like it.
Fantastic. Thanks for being a part of this panel. Raphael Lelou, you scored The Other Lamb. Tell us a little bit about it and why we should be excited to check it out.
Yeah, I think like what was super interesting, both while making it and when you're gonna watch it, is the fact that this was a co-production between a U.S. company based in Los Angeles, Ireland. It was shot in Ireland, made post-production in Belgium. The director is Polish, so you get a lot of great things from around the world. Basically, the cinematography is gorgeous.
It is,
and yeah, you like that kind of Polish, Eastern European aesthetics. Yeah, post-production sounds Belgian, I hope. I don't know what it means. And yeah, it has that kind of a underlying Hollywood sense that they were putting in like beautiful landscapes from Ireland. So it's kind of an interesting thing for that. It's really like a multicultural film.
Fantastic. Definitely a unique and scintillating watch. Thank you for being a part of the panel, Raphael. Devin,
pleasure. Thank you.
Devin, we're all excited to check out The Wretched. Tell us why. Devin, any parting words about The Wretched? He's stuck in...
He's back.
I'm back.
You're back. Awesome. So why should we be excited to check out The Wretched?
So The Wretched is a bit of a throwback, you know. It's a tonally varied film, and I hope that it gets people invested in the characters. It's not completely dour and dark. It has some bright moments, and I think people will like it because of that. And you know, amazing performances from the entire cast, of course. You know, John Paul Howard and Piper Curda. Makeup, it's, you know, lots of practical effects. So if people are into that, the last fifth of the movie is just kind of all downhill with all kinds of horrific, fun stuff. And yeah, I hope that people enjoy it.
I hope they do. I think they will. I've seen it twice, and I definitely enjoyed The Wretched. I want to thank all of my panelists for participating in the inaugural Dissecting horror live stream. We're going to be doing more of these. I want to thank our partners, Impact 24, for coming to us and collaborating on this worthy endeavor. This entire panel, if you tuned in late or if you had to leave in early, we're going to be uploading it onto YouTube along with links to all of the films and social media handles for all of our wonderful panelists. I want to thank you all again from the bottom of my heart, and to all of our viewers out there, stay safe and stay scared. This has been Dissecting Horror.